Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Rita Black, and we are here with another episode of the Skills of Weight Loss Success series. This is a series that I've just started doing with some of our people who've gone through the Shift Weight Mastery process, and some people just went through, and someone like Julie, who is joining us today, Julie Kim, actually went through our program about 5 years ago, and she has released 37 pounds, but has kept it off for that 5 years. So and Julie will tell you herself, as in our conversation, that's been a journey for her. It didn't just like all come off magically and, like at once, but what she really changed was some key things. And again, with this series, what we're focusing on just isn't that like she lost the weight and then she's living happily ever after, but her weight management is something that she created and changed her life around, and now it's the way that she's being able to stay consistent with it. Well, I'll let her tell you, but it's a change in her mindset, and then that trickled down to the skills, her focusing on some key skills that has allowed her long-term success. So welcome, Julie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
maybe
having me.
I'm super excited to hear about what you feel like you're looking at you. I never on Zoom, I never know where to look. I'm like, should I look at should I look at
Me
so
neither.
I'm gonna look at you. And you guys, I may also turn blue. I don't know what's going on with my Zoom, but it thinks I look great blue. So if I turn blue, forgive me, but I guess it's a blue day for me. So Julie, can you tell us just a little bit about how things were, what was going on before you did the shift weight mastery process? Because I know you were trying to lose weight, but weren't being super successful. So like maybe kind of walk through what your key frustrations were.
Yeah, so I have always been, not always, but a good part of my life, I've been struggling with weight loss. I've tried different diets um, with some success and then with, sometimes without, but always going back kind of to where I was. Um, so I was always exercising too, but I found that without the change in my eating habits, that the exercising just wasn't helping me to reach my goal.
Right. Okay. And so, were you sort of a victim of trying to diet and then kind of going off and that,
Yes,
that sort of
I'm
feedback?
the yes, I am the queen of, I blew it. All right, let's screw it. I'm gonna just eat whatever I want, and not just whatever I want. I didn't even want any more food. I just kept eating because this was my last opportunity to
Right.
eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll start again tomorrow. I'll start again Monday. And I think because of that, I packed on even more weight than I would have if I had just, like you said, like I have learned, forgive myself and just, you
Keep going.
know, keep going. Okay, I ate, whatever, and let's just, forget about it and move on.
Right. Assess and move on. Absolutely. So, okay, so so I know I'm not going to ask you too much about your shift weight mastery process because you did it like 5 years ago, so it's a long time. But how is hypnosis helpful for you in that process?
Oh, it was extremely helpful because I have a lot of anxiety, and I find that if I can control my anxiety, I can help to control my overeating.
Right.
So the hypnosis was a big part of, me being able to control my anxiety, to use the messages that I heard, to coach myself later.
Good. I think too, I think you're bringing up a really big point because I think a lot of people who struggle with their weight have an anxiety, and it's this underlying anxiety that I am not in control. I mean, just in this area
Hmm.
of life specifically. I mean, we might have anxiety about other areas of your life, but I think that I get the same with smokers is that they say, well, I'm so anxious all the time, and they don't understand that the impulse to smoke is an agitated feeling, and often when we're struggling with our weight and we're in this battle constantly, like, should I eat, should I not, is that food going to make me fat, is that food going to make me okay, like it's very anxiety provoking. And when
Hmm.
you understand what you're doing, which is really what the shift weight mastery process is about, is to give you the keys to the kingdom, like you can understand you are in control of your own weight management. And we'll talk about these skills more, like the tracking and understanding how weight loss happens more, and applying like you were working out, like you were saying before you began this journey, but going, why am I, like, I'm working out, I'm hiking every day, like why am I not losing weight? That's very
Right.
anxiety provoking, because it's just like,
It is.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, why am I not losing weight, right? So once you
Yeah.
kind of get it, understand, it calms you down so much. And I think people are like, with tracking, people are very like, oh, I don't want to track my food because I don't want to be obsessed by food. But actually, people are very surprised when they actually are, feel that like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and A plus B equals C. It really calms you down. So a lot of people who think they have
Yes.
anxiety issues actually don't have as much anxiety as they think they do. And I do think that the hypnosis also does teach you to, like you said, and I think not just the hypnosis, but the process helps you learn to communicate more powerfully with yourself, which is obviously what you're talking about. So
Absolutely.
now you fast forward, here you are, so when after the program, so I think the main things, like in the main first, like let's say first 6 months of your weight release, what were the things that you felt were you were doing, like the skills that, like exercise or track, like what were the things that you think made the most impact on your journey down the scale, like releasing the weight?
I think tracking was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the hypnosis, but also, you know, using using the skills that I learned from the shift, from reading the book, um, self-coaching
Yes.
really, I think, is big for me,
Right.
and kind of talking myself out of making these, quick decisions. I think what comes to mind is, are you going to eat over this? I hear that a lot. I get that from. Well, I know that's your line, but I use that. Are you really going to eat over this?
Right, right. So what she's referring to is like a self-coaching line, like, am I going to eat over this? So like if we have something happen to us, like we're pissed off with somebody, or we're something bad happens, or something that would normally make us just impulsively go, oh, I need to comfort eat, or I need to eat over this. We start to protect ourselves. We start to say, well, am I going to eat over this? Because if I am, I need to kind of self-correct my thought processes, so I don't need to eat over it, and I can actually take care of it and keep the food separate from my emotional life. And that is huge. And then I don't have to. And if we do eat something, go, okay, forgive myself, not, oh, screw it, blew it, start.
Right.
So I love that. And would you say that that also then, because I'm assuming that that has translated into your being able to stay consistent these 5 years with your weight release?
Yes, absolutely. One other thing I wanted to mention was the whole idea of that, we learn and shift that it's not a diet.
Right.
Because a diet, you feel deprived, and it's temporary. So I'll eat diet, you eat the grapefruit,
You'll
all
eat
day.
whatever.
And then I'm going to order a pizza when it's over. But when I look at this as more of a lifestyle change, and this is just how I have to eat, and now I want to eat. I feel so much better eating that way.
Right. Yeah.
That has helped me a lot. That I don't see it as, I'm going to starve myself for a week and then
Right.
binge.
Well, I think what you're talking about, and I think that was something that I wanted to point out to people, which I think is really important, is that when we are struggling with our weight, we have a set of thought processes and habits that perpetuate themselves unconsciously. So we aren't even aware that they're going on. We're trying to be good, but all these other sort of factors are just very powerful underneath it. Then we go through a process, and like what the shift weight mastery process is, kind of brings everything to the forefront. We kind of get this awareness. um, we're not only aware, but now we're starting to get our power and be able to self-coach ourselves through that. And now someone like you, Julie, who's been, thoughtfully self-coaching them yourselves, and just to kind of point out, I want you to assure people that I think the fear people have is like, I'm always going to have to think about this as much as I do, like when I'm initially losing weight. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
no.
and what happens, and what you're saying, is that it becomes a way of life. And so it goes back into the unconscious. Like, obviously, you're still focusing on things, but you're focusing on things like, you have to brush your teeth and you have to do the laundry. We tend to our weight mastery like we would the other areas of our life, but it isn't this like super focus, but you took it out, you got aware, you made changes, and now a lot of what you do that allows you to perpetuate your staying at your ideal weight is um, your mindset, but it's become a lot of what you've been doing has become unconscious again, but
Yeah,
in the right way.
yeah, it's become a good habit.
Yeah, a good habit, exactly. And one of the habits I would say is exercise, that you are very consistent with exercise. Tell everybody how much
Yes.
are exercising on a weekly basis, because I think people need to understand that most weight masters are exercising pretty consistently.
Yeah, so, well, especially since the uh, coronavirus, I have more time. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I usually exercise every day. Um, and for if I'll either hike and then do some floor work at home, or I'll do a spin, um, indoor cycle, and then some floor work at home. So for about 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. And you mentioned to me before I turned on the recording some of the alterations you made in the way you eat over time. Like, it wasn't just like, like you said, I'm not going on a diet, but you started implementing changes in some of the ways that you eat. So maybe could you share with some people some of the dietary changes that you've made that have made a big difference for you?
Yeah. So, uh, I don't eat a lot of carbs, but I don't totally cut them out either, because if I do, I feel too deprived.
Right. Yeah.
So, so I have what I like to think of as like smart carbs,
Ooh,
good
I like that
carbs.
term.
Yeah, and I try to eat kind of a clean diet for the
Mhm.
most part, not a whole lot of processed foods. One thing, I used to eat, because I love fruit, and but I find I don't eat as much fruit as I used to,
Mhm.
because that was something I felt. I don't know if you remember, but Weight Watchers used to let you eat all the fruit you
Oh,
want. Well,
of course. The point system
yeah,
lets you eat now all the chicken you want and all the
yeah,
and all the
it's
vegetables you
it,
want. And
and it's
I don't
crazy.
know how that
and
works.
and and what I do too is, when I want, not that I don't eat fruit alone, but I try to pair it with a protein, so
Mm,
that I feel full,
that
because
is smart.
I often don't feel satisfied with, just a piece of fruit.
Mhm.
um,
I think what
Also,
you're talking about, like, I'm just going to point this out to other people who may not know this. A lot of you may know this, but what Julie is doing is slowing down the absorption of, like, she's changing the glycemic load of, I mean, like, and we don't get into super glycemic load stuff, but I'm just saying, like, when you eat a fruit, sometimes what will happen is it will spike your blood sugar and it will make you feel hungrier, often than more than satisfying your hunger, right? You might eat an apple, but then you might feel hungry an hour later. But if you eat that apple with like a little bit of peanut butter or a piece of cheese or something,
mhm.
then that's slowing down your body's absorption of the sugar, and so that, and then also adding in that stabilization from the protein. I think you were saying you're eating more protein in your diet, and protein is certainly something, even if you're a vegan, you probably understand that when you're eating a good quality protein, that it stabilizes your hunger. And I think a lot of times when we're out in that out of control eating, we're eating way more carbohydrates, which is just stimulating a part of our brain that makes us feel insatiable, and we think it's our fault, but it's not. It's just that we're turning on our brain chemistry to want to eat more and feel more hungry. And I think that was something that you found out in your journey, that, eating more protein and tuning in, like you started to notice. You could hear what Julie said was, I was eating fruit. Then I learned that when I ate fruit, maybe it was better to eat protein. And that was a self-discovery that she made. And I think when you discover those things too, just by tuning in and getting present, like you said, like being present to your body, you get that lesson more than if you're on a diet and just being good. So I'm sorry, and I interrupted you. You were going to say something else. I hope you remember. I don't know
Um,
that.
well, let's see, dietary changes.
Yeah.
So I do recently, because I've been trying to release a little more.
Yeah.
Uh, I've been doing intermittent fasting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
how's that
and
been working for you?
it's good. I like it. I
What are
feel
you
fine.
doing?
So I do an 8 on, 16 off. So
Mm-hmm.
I start eating at 10 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
and
AM.
AM, and then I'm finished eating by 6 usually, but I'm not like super,
Rigid.
strict, because just overall, I think if you're too strict, you're not going to be able to stick to it.
Right.
So around 6, and if it's a little bit later, it's okay. If it's a little bit earlier, it's okay. But I feel good with that, and then it stops me from the nighttime snacking and
Yeah.
eating.
Yeah. That is it's a great tool if you're afraid of intermittent fasting, and it's not for everybody. But the tool of fasting in the evening, especially if you struggle with night eating, you guys, fasting is active because you're focusing on something positive rather than I'm trying not to eat after 7, tells your brain I'm being deprived, versus saying I'm fasting, which is something powerful. It's not an option. Food is not an option. And Julie, you've got this, like, you know, I'm building something. I'm like now resting my digestive system for 16 hours. There's a purpose behind that. And, obviously it takes some time to transition into that, would you say?
It does.
But
It does.
your brain does get used to it after a time. I have a number of clients who also intermittent fast, just like they might not eat breakfast, but they'll push it back to lunch or something. And that just closes that gap of time where they're consuming food. But everybody finds their own journey. And obviously, Julie, you've cultivated something and created something that you have ownership over, which is awesome. And you continue to cultivate it, don't you? Like, it doesn't just like, okay, let's lock this in, and okay, I'm good like this for the rest of my life. Your life changes, like you have kids, your kids are getting,
Right.
lifestyle changes as you go along with them.
Yes.
COVID-19, we're not eating out as much, like, you make adjustments as you go along, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Is there any other, thank you, this has been so great and enlightening, I hope for you guys, because I think that it's great to hear from somebody who's had long-term uh, consistency. What would be something that you would say to somebody just starting out on their journey, like any words of wisdom or inspiration, like if you remember back where you were, like what would you want to tell the Julie 5 years ago on your journey?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Uh, and you have to be patient with yourself, and be be kind to yourself. And what helps me is, early on I thought, oh, I've got 40 whatever pounds to lose. I found that very overwhelming.
Right.
So, breaking it down to like a 5 or 10 pound goal, where
Mhm.
I know I have this long term goal of 40, um, saying, okay, let's do 5, you know,
So you have
that helps me.
milestones.
Yes, yes. I mean, the big goal, but then the milestones, like, oh, let's see if I can get down 5. And then, we're not going to I didn't reward myself with food like I normally would have, but maybe something else,
Right,
like a pair of earrings or,
right, right. Yeah,
um, but
it's
yeah,
important. And it's important to know that this journey, I think, is really fulfilling. Like, I don't think people, because we're so used to struggling and beating ourselves up, and we think of weight loss as such a not fun process. But I think what I want people to understand, and I think that you're kind of enlightening them too, Julie, is that it can be something very creative that you own, that this is a journey with yourself, and it isn't just about weight release, but it's about the, like, it's a love story with yourself, because you're building confidence, you're building trust in yourself, because when you do what you say you're going to do, like you said, like, I'm going to take this slow, I'm not going to, but I'm going to, head down the scale a little bit at a time, and you're able to do that, you build confidence, you build self-respect, and all of those things just build upon themselves with compounded interest till you have some, you're like, wow, it's been 5 years and I've kept my weight off, and that's amazing. Sure. How did that feel, having that length of success for you?
yeah, it definitely builds confidence, and I sometimes forget about it. Wow, 5 years ago I was different person,
Yeah,
and I have to say I feel so much better. I have so much more energy,
yeah,
and it's just a really great thing that I'm proud of myself that I
you
did
should
this
be. Yeah.
for me, and I have 2 daughters, as you know, that I'm setting a good example for, and
Oh, absolutely.
I'm proud of that. And
Yeah.
if I could do it, anybody could do it
Well, I don't,
with your help.
well, no, though, no, you did this yourself, but you should be proud. And I do think it is, when you have daughters or children at all, and they see you going on an endeavor of self-improvement, it changes them. You don't even have to say anything about it. They see you putting in that time, making yourself worth it, because I don't think people realize how our kids are watching us, and
They
our
are.
and how we take care of ourselves. They are observing, our own self-care. And if we don't show that we're worth taking care of them, maybe they make those decisions too, like, oh, mommy doesn't, so maybe we don't take care of ourselves, maybe we just take care of everybody else. And that's more important,
Right, right, right.
that you've modeled that amazing behavior for your.
Yeah. And I also think kids, they value you more if you, or people in general will value you more if you value yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you can just feel that when somebody walks in the room, whether they're confident or not, or they feel they have
Right.
a good relationship with themselves. And I think that the inner coach, that building that, when we know that we can make mistakes, because that's the thing about our process, is like, we understand that learning is, we make mistakes when we learn. So it isn't about being perfect, but it's about making mistakes and learning from them. So when you know you can make a mistake, and you're still going to be there loving yourself and cheering yourself on, that changes your, how much risk you're willing to take in your life. I mean, and just in other areas too. So it's super cool. Julie, thank you so much for being on today. And I hope that you guys all have really valued what Julie has said for us, because I certainly have gotten a lot from this. So thank you so much, Julie. And thank you,
Thank
everybody,
you.
for joining us here today. And I hopefully we will have more of our Skills of Weight Loss Success series coming to you. Okay. Take
Great. Thank you.